It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
And welcome into another edition of Musso at the box. Glad to have all of you here. And y'all, there is a lot that I want to go over here in today's episode with you over about the next 30 minutes. It's kind of a bit more of a normal week for us here in a sense. I mean, they played so many games early in the year. This has just really been preview, recap, preview, recap, preview, recap. Well, I mean, we actually have a day here where we can sit and look at the team and analyze the team and talk about the team. So I really want to do all of that. I'll let you hear a lot from Jay Johnson as well because, you know, he obviously met with the media after the win over Louisiana Tech and reaffirmed plenty of the things that we spoke about in our immediate reaction and recap to that ball game. But he also kind of went pretty in-depth, about as in-depth as you'll get, Jay, during the season on the pitching staff and why they struggled at Mississippi State and things they want out of them and things that they worked on that you saw them take to the field in that 11-1 win over Louisiana Tech. So I want to get into all of that. He talked more about Ethan Fry's injury and the recovery there, and we've mentioned it a little bit here kind of throughout the week. Gave an update after he met with the media on Monday, talked about it in post-game. Post-game after Louisiana Tech, because we saw Ethan Fry get the AB, right, the pinch hit AB there, and then Jay, you know, kind of talked about it in timeline and things. So just stick around for that, because I want to compare it to a situation that we've already seen to maybe give you a little bit more of a fair assessment as to when Ethan Fry could potentially be back in this lineup every day, or at least get his shot to be back in the lineup every single day, because that's another thing I want to talk about. I think while the offense is taking a step forward right now, I think you're still searching for your best combination. I don't know if they've settled on their best 9 yet, and I think you'll see a little bit more tinkering in a few different lineups again this weekend when they're welcome in Florida. So stick around for all of it. Like I said, y'all, we got a lot to do. It's great to finally just have a day where you can dive into the team and not look recap or preview or things of that nature. So that's what we're doing here today. Smash the like button if you have not already. Get subscribed up to the YouTube channel. Get subscribed up on your favorite podcast app. All of that, greatly, greatly appreciated, and glad to have you here. Glad to have you here with us. So let's get started. We're going to start with the pitching. And look, if you've been following along, really, you know, I had wished that they played on Wednesday night, so we really could have had that, you know, the Tuesday when we had to preview La Tech. We really could have had that to talk about the pitching, to go a little bit more into, okay, what are some things that went wrong? Because, you know, when we're reacting right after the series, you haven't had all the time in the world to really think things through, to really, you know, kind of dive into some numbers or things like that. And, you know, I would have loved to have been able to have done that for Tuesday, but they had to play a game. So we're going to do a lot of that today. And I'm actually kind of glad in hindsight now that we got that opportunity, because now we have this reaction from Jay Johnson. So let's go back one last time to that Mississippi State weekend. And I want you to hear from Jay Johnson himself. This was after the win over Louisiana Tech. Jay was asked, you know, what were things that they noticed about why the pitching staff struggled in that series against Mississippi State.
I felt like a couple guys backed off when they had a chance to put hitters away this weekend. And they got fought hard. They got punched back for the first time in a while, because going into that series, we hadn't been scored on a whole lot. I think it was 0 the game before, or 1 the game before that, 2 the game before that, 2, 0, 3, and then in Houston, I thought we pitched really well. And so somebody punched back at them, and I don't think we responded with the right fashion, you know, from the mound. And tonight was more like that. And that, again, that's a good team. They have 16 wins already, so it's a good win. And I hope they learn some things, you know, from that failure this weekend.
So there's a lot to kind of go through there with that. Him mentioning guys lacking, you know, kind of paraphrasing here, aggression in favorable counts, and, you know, not putting the guys away, kind of shying away from putting hitters away. I mean, we could go through a number of examples from that weekend against Mississippi State of that happening. But the one that immediately came to my mind when I heard Jay Johnson say that was when LSU had they gave up the big fifth inning in the Sunday game against State, and Thatcher Hurd had the 9-hole hitter 0-2 and then lost him and walked him. That's the one that came to mind first. And I'm not picking on Thatcher Hurd. It's just, this is why it came to mind first, because that swung the entire series when you really think about it. LSU had just tied the game up. It's a rubber game. You can still win this series. That walk, when you had a guy 0-2, the 9-hole hitter who was hitting like 200, and you lose him, that flipped everything. And that was the first thing that came to my mind there. The other thing is, hearing him kind of say they lack I know that's not exactly the words he used, but paraphrasing, lacked the aggression ahead. What is the one phrase, I should say, that we've heard associated with this team, not just the pitching staff, this team since preseason? Do you remember what it is? Attack, right? Anytime Jay was asked about defending the national championship, he says, we're not defending anything. This is a completely new team. We're attacking the next opportunity, and it's been so well received. I'm so pleased with how everyone's been attacking their opportunity, attacking the game, attacking the day, everything. He just told you there they didn't do that, and that they got punched back finally again, and they didn't handle that well. And it's not to say that and have you freak out like, oh no, what's going on? Sometimes you need that. It sucks that it has to happen. Y'all, that was miserable. It was miserable to have to sit there and watch. You know, it was more miserable having to play it and experience it, and that's what those guys had to do. We've used the word failure a lot when describing that weekend. Jay just used the same word. It's what it was. But sometimes you need that. How many times have any of you heard a coach or a player or an analyst or a general manager or anyone associated with sports say sometimes it's easier to teach after a loss? And that could very well be what you're looking at right now, because we said it in the immediate reaction to the Louisiana Tech game. Y'all, that was awesome what you saw from them. And we're not going to sit here and say, yeah, it was against Louisiana Tech, because we spent an entire preview show talking about why that was the perfect test for LSU. Veteran lineup, 8 seniors there, hitting over 300 as a team. They don't strike out a lot. They put a bunch of pressure on you. And then we made a point in our recap to go through every situation where LSU stranded runners throughout that ball game, and there were a lot. So that's a great thing. The other thing that really kind of sticks out is, okay, him saying the part about them getting punched back, because that was something, as bad as it was, that was something that I tried my best to drive home in the immediate there, recapping that weekend. We all look at it and we all have the tendency to just go, they're awful. Well, what is this? Thought this pitching staff was supposed to be good. This is the strength of the team. And I did my best to make it clear then, yeah, it is. Just because they had that one bad weekend, and it was really bad, you cannot discount what they've done to that point where they had been really, really good on the mound. Sometimes when you're that dominant, you can get a little complacent sometimes. And the wheels fall off, and you don't attack. And that's what it's not that they're this atrocious pitching staff all of a sudden. They're still really good. But that was really bad. You just can't discount what they had done to get them to that point. They had faced some pretty good teams, especially, I mean, think about the weekend in Houston. They pitched awesome that weekend. They faced 3 teams that could very well be in the NCAA tournament. So you can't discount it. But yeah, that was bad. So what have they been working on since then that allowed them to have the success against a veteran Louisiana Tech lineup? And what do they need to continue to work on so they can have the success against the Florida Gators this weekend at the Box?
I think we have to be really convicted in what we're doing, both with who we're putting in games when. So that's me. That's 100% me. They need to be convicted in what they're throwing and how they're throwing it and why they're throwing it, because the right pitch is not as good as the wrong pitch if you're throwing the wrong pitch with conviction. But we got guys with talent, as we've seen, and they needed to get on the throttle a little bit better than they did this weekend. We searched through a lot of things. We feel like we have some answers into maybe why they struggled a little bit, and the ones that we feel like we can really control, we made just a couple adjustments. And it's a staff-wide deal, but they've been really good to this point. They were not good at all this weekend. I thought they were really good tonight.
I love that answer so much. We pinpointed a few things, and the things that we can control, we've already started working on it. That sounds great. The part I loved the most is when he talks about they need to throw with conviction and understand, what they're throwing, why they're throwing it, and when they're throwing it. And the part that just stuck out the most was him saying the right pitch isn't better than the wrong pitch if you're throwing it with conviction. That goes into everything we played in that first cut about attacking and aggressiveness, and you cannot have your best stuff like a Luke Holman did that Friday night. But if you're throwing with conviction, even if you make the wrong pitch, if you put everything behind that one pitch, that all right, I'm attacking with this pitch. Even if it's the wrong pitch, he's sitting there telling you it's still better than the right pitch because you believe it, because you have the conviction to go after the hitter. That's massive. And I think you did see that against Louisiana Tech. And that should give you confidence going forth against another elite offense this coming weekend versus Florida. But I loved that part. The other thing is having conviction with how you're going to use this staff. And y'all, as bad as the execution was, and we talked about this after the series, the way they used the staff was just head-scratching. It was just head-scratching. I mean, Nate Ackenhausen pitched one time and threw 9 pitches. That's not okay. Like, that can never happen. Fidel Ulloa, who you had put in tight spot after tight spot after tight spot, all pre-conference play long, threw 2 pitches, and that was it over the entire weekend. That's not okay. Like, that cannot happen. Gavin Guidry pitched once. That cannot happen. It was just head scratching. It really, really was. I mean, they had really put Sam Dutton in some tight spots. You didn't see him. Like, the guy, and please don't misunderstand me here, because I don't mean this as a slight or as a knock or anything. Goodness gracious, no, these kids work really hard, and they're going out there, they're giving it their best, but, Will Helmers, Christian Little, those guys pitching twice, and Nate Ackenhausen not, that just can't happen. So, look, I loved the way they used the staff against Louisiana Tech. We had talked about it. I wanted to see just a number of guys. They were going to use more, too, by the way. Jay was planning on using, he said postgame, 3 different guys in the 9th inning. Cade Woods, Sam Dutton, and DJ Primo were all supposed to get time in that ninth inning, provided LSU got there. Tommy White hit the walk-off double, and you didn't. But I liked it, and they had quick hooks for everybody. You know, so, okay, if somebody let a few guys on base, no, out. Now, again, you have the advantage of doing that in a midweek game because your roster's not pared down so much with, limits like it is in conference play, but you didn't even really see that against Mississippi State. So, like, the way it was head scratching. So he's aware of it. I don't doubt that he is. You're not going to find anybody more detail oriented or more focused in on the task at hand than Jay Johnson. A large majority of the reason why he's so successful. But that was just so head scratching. So that improved obviously in the game against Louisiana Tech. The conviction, the execution, all of that improved in the game against Louisiana Tech. And ultimately, Jay said he was really, really, really pleased.
I'm really, really pleased with that effort from the mound tonight. And, it's good because it's going to give us more options, of what to do in these SEC weekends. And, we've pitched well to this point, but that was a really encouraging sign tonight against a really good team.
It was really encouraging for all the reasons that we talked about. So let's see if they can keep going. Let's see if they're more aggressive in putting guys away. Let's see if the conviction is there, both in how they use the staff and how the staff executes. Because you also heard him say it's a staff-wide problem. And that's what we talked about after the weekend. It was. It wasn't just one guy. Like, that's what made it concerning. And it was just one after the other that you ran out there. They all struggled. I gave you the two, Herring and Ackenhausen were the two that I said, nope, they were great. But you're good. You're talented. They need the conviction. They need the confidence. They need the aggression to get back out there and be the staff that we know they can be because we have seen it. We're not going to discount what they did up until that point, but we're also not going to just brush that off as not concerning because anytime you give up 31 runs or 33 runs on 41 hits, that's concerning. But you have a really talented staff that I do believe can overcome that. Let's talk about the offense for a minute, and then we'll dovetail that into Ethan Fry. And the latest update on his injury, I should say. Smash the like button if you haven't already. Get subscribed up to the podcast and to the YouTube channel. Greatly appreciated. So, after the game, when we did our reaction and our recap, we talked a lot about the offense, and I was encouraged with what I saw from them for a lot of different reasons. Mainly the guys that we wanted to see stay hot, they stayed hot. Tommy White is in fuego. He went 4 for 5, hit his another home run, 4 straight game with a homer. Like, he paced your offense just like he should. He was great. And, all of a sudden you look up there and Tommy's second on the team in homers and is tied for second on the team in RBI. That happened over 4 games, y'all. Like, he's been awesome. He is seeing the ball. He's hitting it to all fields. The contact is hard and great. Like, all the reasons we thought he was about to break out, he has. Josh Pearson stayed hot, 2 more hits, both coming off left-handed pitchers. That tells you how well he's seeing the ball. That's a great sign. Michael Braswell, another really productive day. So you're wanting to lengthen that lineup. I will say, I don't know if they've totally settled on their 9 yet. Actually, I don't think that they have. I don't think Jay believes he's found his best lineup yet either, because when you look at it, you still have a lot of options there. Like, the guy I want to see really take that Pearson, Braswell type step this weekend against Florida is Mac Bingham. And you're going to hear me say that again when we preview the series. But you just need a little bit more out of that guy. And right now, they have him hitting leadoff. I don't know if he's your best option at leadoff. I can tell you who I want the leadoff hitter to be for me. I want it to be Stephen Milam. And if not Stephen Milam, I want it to be Paxton Kling. But right now, Milam. But both those guys, really all 3 of those guys, have to get going a little bit more. So we'll keep an eye on that. But, you have 3. Like, if Mac Bingham's going, he's a great option at leadoff. If Paxton Kling is going, he's a great option at leadoff. He's kind of the perfect option at leadoff, minus the fact he doesn't hit left-handed. When he's going, great. when he's playing like he's capable. Steven Milam, a few times we've seen him in the leadoff spot, that's looked pretty darn good. It's a tough strike zone. He's got a short, flat swing that he compacts the ball hard. He's got speed, can hit from the left side. All that's great. I think Brady Neal is just extremely intriguing right now because he had a really rough go of it at Mississippi State, but coming into the conference opener, he was the second leading hitter on this team and was starting to use the backside of the field a little bit more. The power that is in that bat, I think you've seen it on display a few different times this season. Like, that's a guy that has all the ability in the world and will have a spot in this lineup. Like, he's going to be in the lineup at some point when they face Florida, and you're going to be looking for him to bounce back. So that's why I say, like, you've seen, look, Alex Milazzo's had some really nice at-bats this year when he's been called upon. Ashton Larson has had some really nice at-bats when he's been called upon. Same with Jake Brown. You still have so many options, but you are starting to see separation. Like Josh Pearson right now, not coming out of the lineup. Michael Braswell right now, not coming out of the lineup. So you are starting to see things get solidified a little bit more, but they're still not settled there. But Jay Johnson, like me, like probably most of y'all listening, is highly, highly encouraged with where the offense is going.
It was a good game. You know, we said this the other day. I feel like we made some improvements. I think they showed up immediately in the game Saturday. I thought we battled a really good pitcher on Sunday and then carried it over to tonight. And it's hard to hit, but I feel pretty good about where we're headed there.
You should, because they are making strides. The lineup's getting longer, and that's important. Like, that is ultimately what you want. That's what made LSU so elite last year, is it felt like it took forever for you to get through the lineup. Because there's just one guy after another, who was a threat to do everything. They were so complete, and you might not get to that point this year. You probably won't. But you can get to a point where that lineup feels long, and it's hard for opposing pitchers to go through, and they get closer and closer to that with every passing game. And that's what's encouraging about the offense. And I know we've talked about that a lot this week, and you'll probably hear me say it on the preview of the Florida series, but it's just something that I want to drive home. So we're going to really hone in on which combination they're throwing out there and what type of situations and how it's performing. The other thing is Ethan Fry. Like, y'all, when Ethan Fry is good to go and is ready to go, he's going to get a shot to break into this lineup every day, because what you've seen from him in 17 at-bats so far this year has been awesome. Like, he's hitting .353 in 17 at-bats. He's only punched out 3 times in those 17 at-bats. He was taking really, really good ABs before the injury. And Jay updated the status on Monday, kind of made it sound like, okay, a week to 2 weeks potentially. When he originally, after Fry got hurt, said hopefully he wouldn't be out more than a week, but then you get that, but then you see him pinch hit. It's like, okay, is it more him throwing the ball from the outfield that's potentially the problem here? And sure, all of that wraps into one, but when you see Ethan Fry, come into the game and have the pinch hit at bat after hearing, 1 or 2 weeks, Jay Johnson's going to be asked for an update after the game. He was, and this is what he said.
I think he's progressing good. We'll challenge him tomorrow with some live at-bats. Challenge him on the machine a little bit to check on his availability for the weekend. We obviously want to get him going. The next couple weeks, him being available would be a huge lift to this team.
So the follow-up to that also was, okay, well, we saw him in the game. He punches out looking. How much longer until he gets comfortable? Like, how long until he's fully, back comfortable at the plate?
I don't feel like he's been out that long personally. Like 10 days is not an eternity, and we do a lot of game simulated stuff. I think it's about him swinging with the right intensity. He's not going to hurt it any worse. Like, that's why we're okay to try to get him back in there. but it's just, getting that conviction, and he's got great bat speed. And so, want to get into and tap into that bat speed.
For sure. So this is what I want to do. So you might remember when Ethan Fry injured his shoulder against Xavier, diving back into first base, Jay Johnson in the post game said, it's similar to what happened to Tommy White. And that's when he said, I hope Tommy was back in a week. It's similar to what happened to Tommy White. And you heard him there in that cut say, he hasn't been out that long. It's only been 10 days. He just has to swing with the right intensity. He can't hurt it anymore. Like, it is what it is. It'll probably pop out another time because that's what happens once your shoulder does. It's much easier for it to happen again. Think again, Tommy White. That was a chronic problem that Tommy had. But when I go back and look, and I went back and looked to confirm this. I thought I remembered it this way. Turns out I did. Tommy White, so he gets hurt opening day, 2023, his first at bat. RBI single up the middle. He dives back into first base on a pickoff, dislocates his shoulder. He's out for a week. He is back. He didn't play the rest of that series against Western Michigan. He didn't play the midweek game against Southern. He was back against Kansas State in the Round Rock Classic the following Friday. Tommy went 1 for 4 in that ball game. He went 0 for 5 against Iowa, 1 for 5 against Sam Houston, 1 for 3 against Texas. And in that Texas game, I believe it was his first bat, he had a double, smashed it, and then took 3 other really, really good at bats in that ball game. And it was similar to what we said, going into the Mississippi State weekend this year. It was like, okay, he looks good. Like, it's coming. He's back. That Friday against Butler, 2 for 3. The next day against Central Connecticut State, 3 for 3, and he never really looked back from there. But even just missing a week with it, Tommy went through a 3 for 17 while he worked his way back to get comfortable and find the right intensity to swing. All the things, you can't hurt it worse. Went 3 for 17, and then you could finally start to see it, and he broke out and never looked back after that Texas game. You could very well be looking at something similar for Ethan Fry, where, yes, Tommy just missed a week, but it took him about 4 games to get better, to get right, to fully feel comfortable again. The difference is Tommy was put back in and got to play every single day immediately. That's not going to happen with Ethan Fry because maybe he can't throw the ball across the diamond. Like, that was the thing with Tommy White. He was put back in there at DH. Well, you're not taking Travinsky out of the lineup right now, so that spot's not really open for Ethan Fry. And until Tommy was ready to go back to third base, he was at DH and hit. So what you're going to have to see is more pinch hit at bats for Ethan Fry, and you'll bring him along a little bit slower. So the timeline's not totally, in sync the same because they're not both everyday players. But the point I wanted to make was it's going to take him a little bit of time to really get comfortable at the plate, and it could take him a little longer since he's not in there every single day. But the encouraging thing is they feel comfortable enough to put him in there right now at the plate, and if he's swinging with the right intensity, it's going to be pretty darn good because the kid just hits the cover off the ball anytime he makes contact. Get excited for Ethan Fry. He's going to be a big boost for this team when he is fully ready to throw the ball and whatnot. And I'm telling you, I think because of what he was doing before, he's going to get a start. It'll probably be midweek or something because you don't want to hurl a guy in there, SEC, especially the start LSU has. But he's going to get a chance to start when he's healthy and ready to be back out there on the field. So I'm looking forward to that. The last thing I will say is this. Jay Johnson, I don't even really think he was asked a question here. Well, he obviously was, but it wasn't the direct answer to the question he was asked. It's just something that he said, and I clipped it out of the larger answer because this was actually the takeaway. You're looking to bounce back now. You have a big test coming to the box in the number 8 Florida Gators, and I know what their record is. Fine, whatever. I don't care. They're good. All right. This is going to be a big test for LSU. Where are they? And Jay Johnson oozed confidence, quite honestly, when talking about where LSU is and the direction that they're headed.
We have a pretty sound deal for where we want to head now. Like I said, we're back in tune offensively. I think We just need to stay committed to the plan that we have right now. I think defensively we need to play better. Like, we need to play with better concentration. We'll work on some things tomorrow specifically to that. And pitching, we have to be convicted in what we're doing. And I think if we can do that in each phase of those things, we're going to play better baseball, and we're going to need to. I mean, it's big boy baseball here for the rest of the way.
Big boy baseball here the rest of the way. How about him? We're back in tune offensively. Like, y'all, he said that in a certain way, like in so many words twice in two different cuts that we played. He is extremely confident where they're heading offensively. That should make you extremely confident. I know it makes me extremely confident. The defense, that's something we haven't really addressed. 9 errors in 4 games, that's really bad. They're way better defensively than that. He's talking concentration. Yeah, it's probably a lot of what it is. They're probably pressing. They know they're making these errors. They don't want to make the errors. You press, you lose focus, and you make the error. I mean, lack of concentration, is that described by any 2 errors more than Braswell dropping a ball on a transfer after he fields it cleanly, or Javen Coleman lobbing a ball over the first baseman's head on a pickoff? Y'all, that is lack of focus. That is concentration. This is a team that going after that Xavier weekend was fielding, I believe, like 982 or something. That's big league. And you've just thrown it down the drain a little bit right now. I don't think defense is the one thing you can look at and be like, it doesn't matter your opponent. Either you can field and throw the ball or you can't. Okay, they proved they can. So refocusing it, going there, and then the conviction on the mound and everything that we talked about earlier in the show. He's confident with where they're heading. And like you said, they need to play better, because here you go. This is the stretch we've all circled. Like, Florida at home, at Arkansas, home against Vandy, at Tennessee. And you've set yourself back losing that series at Mississippi State. So now, instead of keeping your head above water right here, which you still need to do, you also got to try to make a little hay here in these next 4 series. If they're headed in the right direction, like Jay believes, they could very well do that. They're definitely talented enough. I'm fired up to get to this weekend and watch them play Florida. I'm fired up to preview it, and we'll have that coming down the pike for you as well. So stay tuned here to Musso at the Box. We got you covered wall to wall. Hope everything that we went through today was helpful. Hope it kind of shed some light on certain things. I loved being able to have the reaction from Jay to bring to you. So hopefully all of that was extremely helpful, and I hope that you join me next time on Musso at the Box.